Brandon.
Hi.
I see you. Let me turn off our music. I don't think you're on camera. Do I need to invite you? I always forget.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't know why it makes us do that. We'll have to have a talk with the folks at Fireside. There you are.
Got it.
Hi, Woody. Thanks for joining us. All right. It is raining like crazy where I am in New Jersey, so if it gets too loud, it just stopped. It just like rained like crazy and then it stopped. So it
Yeah,
was
we've
really
had
loud.
a few days of rain here in Denver too. It's been nice. I've enjoyed it, but I'm definitely ready for the sun to come back out. Okay, so it looks like it's now 3:01. So let's get the party started. Oh, you froze for a minute there.
Yeah. All right. I'll start. I may out with this that we're having. Go ahead.
Oh, Arlene, you're still frozen.
Oh. Uh,
I can kind of hear you. Oh, there we go.
okay. Sorry. It's just the weather is so bad over here, but hopefully we can get through this. We'll keep it short today. This will be a good one.
Yes, yes. So, welcome everybody to Love Insight, the site for science based insight to help you find love. I am your host, Brandon Rader. I am a certified psychological researcher, matchmaker, and coach who specializes in behavioral health and interpersonal relationships. I have extensively investigated both and have helped over 100 couples not only find their ideal partner, but shape happy, healthy, long term relationships. And our other host is Arlene Washburn.
Hi, thank you, Brandon. So good to be here with you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a science-based dating and relationship coach and former CEO of the only state licensed school for matchmaking. So I've traveled the world to Asia, Europe, throughout the US and Caribbean, training other love industry professionals. And now we spend our time working with singletons, trying to get them to their relationship goals. So, Brandon, what is your love insight for today?
Yeah, so I would say my love insight for the week would have to be pertaining to our topic, specifically about how to spot a player, but more importantly, what a player is not. And we'll get into that into specifics about that shortly. But all I have to say about it is that I'm a proponent of circular dating, or also known as rotational dating. I have a concept that I call the dating digits, which is where I encourage my client to date multiple people at once. And when I say dating multiple people at once, it means that there's been no conversations of exclusivity with any party, because of course that would be cheating. But the reason why I encourage this is so that people have the ability to compare and contrast and explore and learn new things about themselves and the things that they're looking for. And that just happens at a faster pace when you're dating more than one person at once, which helps you get to on a fast track to finding your ideal partner. And so my insight for the week is really think about your intentions and when you want to be in a relationship. If you're looking to be in a relationship sooner rather than later, then strongly consider increasing your dating digits and diving into circular dating or rotational dating.
Yeah, that's important, and of course, not everybody can handle that. So we just want to say that's not for everyone. So here's my love insight because I had a conversation today with a client, and this particular client has this hang up of traveling first class. So this is actually a criteria for the person that she meets. And we've been working together for a while, and there's a number of things that make it a little bit harder to match her because, she's 67. She's looking for a wealthy gentleman who's at her level, intellectually stimulating, etc. And she's only 5'4", but he ideally needs to be 6 feet. And I'm like, we were texting back and forth today, and I said, "Are you?" She says, "Well, maybe I should open up my criteria." And I said, "Okay, that sounds great. Where would you like to open up?" And she says, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, does he have to be 6 feet tall? Can he be 5'7"? That's 3 inches taller than you." And at 67, I don't think she's wearing 3-inch heels, if that's the issue, right? And I mean, and I said to her, when I dated, I didn't care if a guy was 5'5". I'm like, there's so many great men out there who are successful, attractive, and just doing amazing things. Maybe sometimes even to compensate for their height. But I'm like, why are you missing out on all these guys? So she ixnayed on that. She's like, well, I'll consider 5'11". And I said, what are you talking about? We had already agreed to 5'9". So that didn't change. And then this whole business of flying first class, I'm like, okay, how do you want to feel? Do you want to have a partner who's going to make you feel, loved, desired, and, who's going to travel with you and just all the things that come with that partnership? But I mean, for you to give that up because he has to travel first class. And so she finally says, well, maybe then I'll just do the first class, even if he's in coach. And I'm like, okay, fine. Oh my goodness. So let's jump into our topic, right? Because I think what happens when people have these crazy criteria is that they do end up falling for a player, right? Because the players know how to play and make you feel and think that they have all the criteria that you're looking for, especially if they are attractive and, they know how to talk to you and they just know how to play. And that's my concern with some of the criteria that people are looking for, that they end up in these situations. So let's first talk a little bit about defining what a player is. And I think you already kind of hit the nail on the head. A player is not doesn't mean that if you're circle dating, right, that you are a player, because that's a different scenario. That's something where you are intentionally dating and looking at multiple candidates at once. And I always say you're not even necessarily having sex with everybody, because this is not something that is a prolonged status where you're dating multiple people for a year, even though you haven't had the exclusivity talk. It's usually like a month or so. What are your thoughts, Brandon, in terms of what is a player?
Yeah, I think what's important to consider is the intention. What is the intention of the person? So if someone's dating multiple people at once, and again, there's been no conversations of exclusivity with any of the people that they're dating, is their intention to try to find their ideal partner and their ideal relationship? Is that why they are dating multiple people? Because they just want to get there faster. They want to explore. They want to open themselves up and open up their options and opportunities to find love. If so, then they're not playing, right? They're in it to find their partner, their ideal person. Now, if a person's intention is not to find an exclusive partner, then they're playing. That's all they're doing, right? They're just playing games. They're playing to play. They're not playing to win a long-term relationship. So I think that's an important distinction. And I think that's something that people can use as a tool to help assess, is someone a player? So one of the biggest problems that Arlene and I encounter is, one, being able to understand what a player truly is, which, like we just said, it's all about the intention behind it. Is the person trying to find their ideal partner, or are they simply just dating to date? Are they just dating for self gratification, for fun? Or are they just simply trying to explore but have no goals of a long term relationship at this point in their life? The
Yeah.
second issue, I think, is the ability to determine, is someone a player in those initial stages of dating. And Arlene and I define the initial stages of dating as those first 3 dates. So, Arlene, why don't you talk a little bit more about some of the signs that people
Yes.
can look for to identify a player on those first 3 dates?
So one of those signs is the too much too soon. When you meet someone and they're immediately using terms of endearment that are not appropriate because you're still really two strangers. So you meet someone and right away they're like, "Oh, hi, babe." you know, that is not. And the thing I want to caution people, excuse me, sometimes it's not just a player. It could be a narcissist too, because a narcissistic person does that. They love bomb you and they rush into a lot of intimacy where it's not really, the timing is off. So I would say that's one of the things that I would use to identify. The other thing that they do when they're players, they call quote unquote breadcrumb you, right? Which is they have, they just send out little messages to sort of keep you on the hook, but they're really not substantial messages. They're not even conversations. They're just like, little words here and there. And by the way, players are not just men. I want to just say right off the bat that there are women who are players. This is not just designated to men, because I think a lot of times that's always, the assumption. So those are 2 or 3 that I would immediately mention right off the bat. How about you, Brandon?
Yes, I would completely agree. I think using pet names can be a sign in those initial stages of dating. One, it's like, do they even actually know your name? Or are they just calling, do they call everybody babe so they don't have to? It's like, hey, babe. It's like, what's my name? Babe. But so I think that's always a good, it is a telltale sign when someone uses too many terms of endearment or pet names.
Mhm.
Because think about it from in this context is if they are too smooth and too comfortable with this higher level of intimacy in the initial stages, it means they're doing it frequently, which
Mm.
might allude to the fact that they are a player or that they've been playing the game for quite a while. Because when people are a little bit more nervous, which this is so interesting, this is what people don't look for on a date. They think that if someone's nervous or if it's a little bit awkward, that there's no spark or there's no chemistry, and that's not a good sign. Actually, it could be quite a good sign because it means you make them nervous, which is a good thing. That's what the butterflies are. When
Yeah.
someone's not feeling the butterflies and they just like can smooth it over, then there's a sign that they've been doing this for a really long time. They've had a lot of practice, which again could be indicative that they're used to playing a game. So I think that if someone is a little bit too smooth, that is a telltale
Also,
sign that they might just be playing the game.
I think players tend to, when and getting back to the intimacy part, is they start talking about sex very quickly, and insinuations and asking questions about sexuality, which whether or not you don't need to be a prude to not be okay with that, because it's just, again, too much too soon and it's totally inappropriate. Another thing that they might do is talk about open relationships. And I know, I want to be respectful of people who have certain lifestyles that they want to have, between consenting adults is all good. But the player is not looking for someone who shares their lifestyle. They're playing, they're dating people who are out there looking for a committed relationship. And because it's all a game, it's all a conquest. And so that's where you really have to be careful, and which is why I always say to not jump into the physical right away, because give yourself some time to assess these things in the behavior and what they say versus what they do. Another thing that they might do is talk about other, if it's a woman talking about other men, or if it's a man talking about other women in a heterosexual situation, with no regard for how the other person might be feeling. If you're trying to establish a relationship with someone, even early on, you don't want to hear about their conquest and whatever it is that they've had in the past, or even currently with other people. Even though people haven't had a discussion about exclusivity, it's something that you don't want to hear. I mean, for God's sakes, when people are online dating and you see a man or a woman with the opposite sex, if you're a heterosexual, it bothers you. You're like, oh well, who's that? And you haven't even met the person. Imagine if you're having a conversation, but they start to um, what is they're priming you, right? They start priming you for being okay with certain behavior or certain scenarios, to see if you're going to go for it. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are actually trying to be in a long-term committed relationship will go along and acquiesce. And I always say, from the moment they meet the person, they're auditioning, because usually a player is attractive and dresses well and has all the bells and whistles going on. And right away, somebody might see them and think, well, this is the person that I want in my life. And they start auditioning from day one on the first date, and then continue to acquiesce to all the requests that don't feel comfortable, but they go along with it. And when you feel that way, then you feel like, is this something I should be doing? You might be hanging out with a player.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And I think that when it comes to the intimacy part, you make an important point in talking about when to engage in physical activity with someone in those initial stages of dating. My philosophy is that if someone is in it for the long haul, that's their goal, then there's no problem waiting. There's plenty of time. So if someone is really pushing intimacy, physical sex, or other forms of sexual activity in those initial stages of dating, it's clear that their intention is not to get to know you for the purpose of a long-term relationship. So that is a pretty good sign for that you might be on a date with a player, and to keep an eye out for when you are in those initial stages of dating with someone. So I think that the other piece that you touched on that I think is important, is when you're thinking about long-term relationships and what their goals are, and make sure it aligns with yours, is to bring up the conversation of what their relationship goals are. Now, you don't want to come off too hot and heavy and say, like, I'm looking to get married and have kids tomorrow. That'll scare someone away, even if they're not a player. But if you talk about relationships, or ask them what their relationship goals are, ask them, like, what does your ideal relationship look like? Or are you looking for a serious relationship right now? If someone uses non-committal language around a relationship, then that can also be indicative that they are a player, because players will often say things like that sound smooth and sound nice, low pressure, but it's non-committal. Like, oh, I am open to it. If I meet my right person, I would totally consider being in a relationship. Like, they're using these vagaries, right? If and maybe I might, as opposed to no, yeah, I am on the journey to find my soulmate, or yes, I would love to meet my ideal person and get into a relationship. That's why I'm dating. So you can kind of see the difference between that, again, intention behind there, and paying attention to the language they use surrounding relationships, and in particular what their projection is for their future relationships.
Speaking of projections, Brandon, one of the things that players do is do a lot of future pacing, like talking about the future, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that so quickly, even though you just kind of met. And also, they tend not to introduce you to their friends, or birds of a feather flock together. So if they do introduce you to their friends, you feel like, I mean, I know this personally, like you feel like a piece of meat around them, because they're all players and they're like all, high fiving each other, so to speak, because it's all a conquest. So you can kind of judge a little bit based on the people that they hang out with, the kind of people that they are, because you're usually like on the average of the five closest people to you.
Yeah, pay attention to, again, their language. Like, are they making grandiose promises? Is there a lot of lip service going on?
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to whether they follow through with even the small things. Like, do they text you when they say they're going to text you? Do they call you when they say they're going to call you? If you guys make future plans for another date, do they follow through? Like, all these things those are indicative that a person is not a player, because there's some follow through. There's a commitment to try to get to know you better and try to make this process work. If they aren't, then it's a sign that it's not very important to them, and it could be a sign that they are a player. And those grandiose promises, I mean, who makes grandiose promises to someone that they just met? I mean, I've certainly heard people say those, not only in romantic situations, but even in professional situations or platonic situations where people are like, yes, we should do this, or oh, I'm going to do this, or oh my gosh, I need to take you there to this restaurant. It's amazing. And they just talk about how wonderful it is, and they get you really excited about it. And they're just telling you things that they think you want to hear, that they feel it's going to impress you and make you like them, but they have absolutely no intention of following through. It's just trying to get you on the hook so that they can get what they want in that immediate moment.
I had a guy tell me the first night that he met me when I was single and dating. He's like, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. I think you're going to be my wife." And it's like, it was such bullshit. Like, he was such a player. I mean, I got to know this guy. I'm like, who says that to someone on the first night that they meet him? It's just
So we should
too much.
probably consummate tonight because I already think you're going to marry me. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes. But beyond the 3 dates, it's also important, even if someone kind of passes your assessment on those first 3 dates, you should still be mindful as to whether someone's playing you. And I think that there's a distinction between the signs you should be looking for on those first 3 dates versus the dates for the third date and beyond. So Arlene, what are some of the signs that people can look for that third date and beyond?
Yeah. So one of the what I had mentioned before is, are they willing to introduce you to their friends? That's usually a sign. If they have friends, if they want to keep you a secret, then they're just playing. That is something. Or they might be texting you at night, and texting you and calling you for booty calls, so to speak, if you have gone to that point, after a period of time. But never to go on a proper date or to go out and do things during the day. It's always a booty call. Another thing is, as I said before, is talking about, if you've had a lapse of time with this person and they're still talking about other women or other men, that's a sign that there's no commitment there, right? So I think those would be, and again, at that point in time, like, okay, early on, you may not be able to hear a lot about commitment, but over time, when certain topics come up about commitment, seeing their reaction to it, and I'm not saying to become exclusive, but even just saying, what is your long-term goal? Are you looking, what type of relationship are you looking to have? Or have you thought about the future? What are how do you feel about family? When they can't even discuss those things after you've been dating for a while, then that's also a sign. It could be
Yeah.
a sign that they're not that into you also, but it could be a sign that they're just playing you.
Yes, I completely agree. I think the language is important to pay attention to. Again, are they using more language that is oriented towards wanting to get to know you, or saying that they are, feel they have feelings towards you, like, I'm really enjoying getting to know you. I feel like there's a connection forming. I love the way you think. Are they using language that indicates that there is a stronger connection occurring beyond the physical? I think also the introduction to friends and family is really important. Are they willing to integrate you into their lives? Now, the friends piece is a little bit tricky because, as Arlene mentioned, there is the possibility that their friends are players, or that their friends might not be players, but their friends might be completely aware that this person is a player. And in which case, even if they introduce you to their friends, that's not a level of accountability for that person.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing because they could be bringing several people around to meet their friends. So it can be a good sign, meaning that they're willing to integrate you into their social circle to a certain capacity. Introducing you to their family, I think, is a bigger marker. And it could even be like a cousin or something. It doesn't have to be meeting the parents. It could be meeting a sister. It could be meeting a brother. But what it indicates is that they are willing to integrate you into their social circle, which does provide a certain level of social accountability there, where, if they do play you or they do something that is wrong, most likely a family member is going to be like, that wasn't cool. I really liked them. I thought they were great. So a lot of players won't bring someone around that they think that they know that they're playing because they don't want other people to judge them, especially their family members. So that's a good way, a good measure. I think another one is touching back on that point from the first 3 dates. Are they following through with their plans? Are they making future plans with you? Not just lip service, not just promises. Are they actually making future plans with you and locking it down? For example, maybe you purchase concert tickets for a couple months away. Are you planning a trip together? Have you bought the airline tickets? Have you made hotel reservations? Have you been invited by their group of friends, say, to a camping trip that's occurring next month? All of these things have some level of formality to them and shows a concrete step that they are planning to integrate you into their lives and continue to get to know you.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, and I think to wrap up this topic, because I know you have to get going soon, we all have agency, right? You can blame players all day long, but the key to the whole dating arena is for you to think about dating karma. I always say treat others the way you would want to be treated in terms of honesty. So if you're out there dating and you are dating intentionally, be clear about it. Have your own vetting process. Have your filtering system, as I call it. Know what you're looking for and keep your eyes open for the good and also the flags, right? Because I think too many people focus on the red flags, and they're not looking at the good. And be aware of yourself so that rather than jumping in with both feet without assessing a situation, which is, I think, a lot of what people do, be mindful of that. And even from just to go back to the beginning before you're out there, like take some time to figure out what it is that you are looking for. What are your core values? What are the things that are important to you? And it's so much easier to date intentionally when you know what you're looking for. And I think the majority of people don't know what they're looking for. They feel like dating is going to bring something and they're going to recognize it, and that's how you get caught up in these situations with the wrong people. So once you know this is what I'm looking for, now you can get that target rather than, those who aim at nothing hit it every time, basically. So that's what I would say. We all have agency. So don't blame the player. Take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I think that it's also important to keep in mind as you're entering the dating world, or if you're already in the dating world, that undeniable chemistry and a smooth date is not necessarily indicative that your intentions and your values are aligned. It also doesn't mean that they're looking for the same thing that you are and that there is this strong connection there. So a lot of people mistake that. They meet someone, it goes really well, the date went really smooth, they feel a lot of chemistry, there was maybe like some kissing or hugging or a lot of flirting going on. And those, when people have those types of dates, that's when they get the most excited. Like, oh my God, it went so well. I felt like we really connected. And it's like, but then they forget to pay attention to those signs and really assess, do our values align? And in which case, that's when you end up in a bad situation where you've just invested, weeks to months or longer with someone who is playing you. So try your heart, even if you're having a phenomenal day and the sparks are flying. I always encourage my clients to do your best to push that aside, stay grounded in the moment, and keep your eye on the prize. Really pay attention to what this person's saying, what they're doing, and finding out if your values truly align. And on the opposite end, if it's awkward and a little bit uncomfortable, give that person some grace, because if everything else aligns, if their values align with yours and what they're looking for aligns with what you're looking for, you're going to be better off with that person than, say, the person who you have amazing romantic sparks with but have nothing in common with or nothing in alignment with.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more, Brandon. So I'm going to sign off for now. If anyone wants to reach out, my name is Arlene Washburn, at Arlene Washburn on social media. everywhere. And Brandon?
Yes, you can connect with me on Instagram at Brandon Rader Official. Also, keep an eye out for our program called the Love Life Launchpad, the program designed to take your love life to new heights. Arlene and I will be launching this next week, or not next week, but next month. And it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be a 3-day immersive program. This is for people who truly want to take deep dives into their past relationships, really identify their patterns and behaviors that have prevented them from not only finding their ideal person, but developing a happy, healthy, long term relationship. And we take it a step further by creating custom love life maps, which will have step by step actions to take you from where you are now to where you want to be, essentially getting you into the relationship that you want. So this is going to be a pretty phenomenal program. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to either of us, and we're happy to share the information with you.
I love